In the last game between the Chargers and Raiders, things got more intense than any scoreboard would suggest. What started as a close contest ended in chaos, with players being ejected and emotions running high. But what really happened on that field? In a game already characterized by fierce competition, no one expected things to get so out of hand. The question remains, how do we get to this point, and what does it mean for the future of the Raiders? On one side, Joshua Palmer from the Chargers, and on the other, Jack Jones from the Raiders were the protagonists of this confusion. When the cameras turned to the field, everyone knew that this moment would be remembered. But there is much more behind this story than a simple physical confrontation. Want to know what happened? Then stay with me until the end to find out all the details of this fight that shook the world of American football. Take the opportunity to like, subscribe to the channel, and comment what you thought of the situation. Last Sunday, the battlefield between the Raiders and the Chargers became the stage for a real war. The final score of 22-12 in favor of the Chargers was overshadowed by a general brawl that shook the game. What should have been just another competitive game turned into an explosion of emotions that resulted in players being ejected and a lot of tension. When the referee blew his whistle, the outcome of the game seemed sealed, but what no one expected was what was to come. A defensive play by the Raiders set off a chain of events that culminated in a brawl on the field. The frustration of both teams boiled over into a physical confrontation that shocked fans and left everyone wondering, how did this happen? Now, with Chargers Joshua Palmer and Raiders Jack Jones the two most likely to be involved in the altercation, questions are beginning to arise. What really sparked the conflict? And what does it mean for relationships on and off the field? It all started with a seemingly routine play in the fourth quarter when the Raiders thwarted a Chargers two-point conversion attempt. With just 340 seconds remaining in the game, the tension was already high. When Chargers Gus Edwards was stopped by the Raiders defense, it seemed like the game was coming to an end without further incident. But that's when sparks began to fly. Palmer ran to help block the ball, while Raiders quarterback Jones followed behind him. Within seconds, the two players were embroiled in a scuffle outside the scoring zone. What could have been a simple shove quickly escalated into something much bigger. With players from both teams trying to break up the fight, the situation only got worse. The intensity of the game boiled over into a physical confrontation that no one expected, and the fight spread across the field, involving even more players. After the fight, Palmer was one of the first to speak out about the incident. Visibly irritated, the Chargers player made it clear that he was not willing to be treated like a punching bag. They came and started throwing punches, but we are not going to be punching bags, Palmer said, firmly defending his stance during the confrontation. Surprised at being ejected, Palmer insisted that he had not thrown punches in return, but that he had to defend himself. He also mentioned that he held no grudges against Jack Jones or the Raiders, despite what happened on the field. For Palmer, it was all about hard work and intensity, nothing personal. He compared the incident to what happens in the UFC, where fighters punch each other and then shake hands. In football, it's not much different, Palmer said, indicating that, for him, the fight was an inevitable part of the intensity of the game, but without leaving any hard feelings. While Palmer gave his version of events, Jack Jones preferred to remain silent after the game, leaving many wondering what his take on the incident was. Jones' lack of comment only increased speculation about what really happened in that decisive moment. However, Raiders teammates and coaches were quick to come to his defense. They said Jones was simply reacting to Palmer's aggression and was trying to protect his teammates. While none of them denied that the situation got out of hand, they all seemed to agree that Jones acted in self-defense. This lack of communication from Jones left a vacuum of information, creating an air of mystery surrounding his intentions and feelings after the game. Was Jones truly remorseful, or was he just trying to keep a cool head for the next match? As the brawl escalated, even the coaches were forced to intervene. Chargers head coach Jim Harbaugh and linebackers coach Navarro Bowman rushed onto the field to separate the players and try to control the chaos. Harbaugh described the scene as a melee, a seemingly endless melee. With his hands raised, Bowman tried to calm the crowd, but the tension was already palpable. The coach's attempt to contain the situation was praised by many, but in practice, the damage had already been done. The game, which should have been remembered for the team's performance, was now marked by fighting. Harbaugh stressed that the priority was to protect his players and prevent more injuries. "We were just trying to get our guys out of there," he said, noting that the focus at that point was on maintaining safety and preventing more ejections. The Raiders' reaction to the brawl was clearly one of frustration. Antonio Pierce, the team's coach, made no secret of his displeasure with what happened. "It was unacceptable and undisciplined," Pierce said, making it clear that his players' behavior did not represent the team's values. For Pierce, the fight was an unnecessary distraction in a game in which the Raiders were already losing. "They scored. They beat us up. We have to accept it and move on," the coach added, showing that the focus now is on preparing for the next game. Pierce's message was clear. There is no place for such fights in football, and for him the most important thing is to keep the team focused and disciplined. The frustration is understandable, but the team needs to learn how to channel that energy productively. This incident has raised a number of questions about the Raiders' future and the impact it could have on the team going forward. Will this mess affect the team's performance in future games? Or will it just be a blemish on the team's record as it looks to bounce back this season? What is clear, however, is that the Raiders' focus needs to return to the field. Fights or no fights, what really matters is performance and the ability to overcome challenges. The fight was a detour, but it doesn't have to be the end of the road. If you like this analysis and want to keep up with the hottest Raiders news, don't forget to like it, comment below what you thought of the fight, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any more updates from Raiders news and Raiders Today. We'll keep following everything closely.